Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's well and okay. Welcome to General Morning Chit Chat. I know I've not done these for the last few days. I've been suggested some subjects, so it's given me about 5 subjects to work on. Okay, and I'll be able to give you General Morning Chit Chat. Now, today, I must address the issue because there is actually a documentary on Channel 4 called To Catch a Copper. Now, this is a programme that is it delves into policing activity that is totally inappropriate towards the public. We're talking bullying, misconduct, some really severe cases. If you'd like to watch the programme, it's on Channel 4 catch-up service, okay? It's extremely distressing. I nearly turned it off at one point. I was that upset. I was really upset, actually, because it's dealing with people who, mostly people who have suffered mental health crisis, people who were on for committing suicide, and the police was really offensive, inappropriate, had no empathy whatsoever. Now, the police, you like to think you can turn to the police for such times when you're in trouble, and you do need support in situations sometimes out of your control. The police, you dial 999 and you get an emergency response. Now, I've had to deal with the police. I've had to deal with the police on the end of a phone. Because I was in crisis. Not because of my mental health, but because my Richard had gone missing a few times, so it was deemed as vulnerable. And it was a terrible, terrible time. And I had no choice but to call 999 to the police. And he went missing, and it was because this was during the pandemic and there was nothing I could do. I had to stay at home. I dialed 999 because I suspected Richard was having a stroke. And so the paramedics came, assessed him, and said, we'd better take you to hospital. But because we were in the rife of the pandemic, I couldn't go in the ambulance with him. I could not go with him. They weren't allowing family members to go with the sick. So I had to stay at home. I had no choice. And I rang up a few hours later to see how things were. I couldn't get hold of Richard. His battery had died. And when I rang up, they told him he could go home. Well, on hearing this, panic set in. He was somewhere around the centre. He walked out of hospital because they said they could go, and that was it. That's the last thing I heard. And I said, you do know he's a vulnerable person. So my parents went looking for him. They said, you're better off staying at home. And anyway, I rang the police. Luckily, he was picked up, and the police were absolutely amazing. They really were. They took him to hospital. I went to the hospital to see him, and seriously, I nearly fell to the floor when they rang up and said they got him. I was so out of my mind with worry. I really was. And when he was there in the hospital, and because it was freezing cold, the weather, that's what made it worse. It was freezing cold, because it was sort of like early February time. It was cold, it was icy. Anything could have happened to him. And I didn't have a tracker then. I mean, I've got one now, but I didn't have one then, and that is a reason why I got a tracker. But anyway, I know I'm going off subject. No, but these police officers were wonderful. They stayed with him. And I got there and I spoke to them, and they said we just picked him up. Luckily, I was able to describe what he had on. That was important. And they picked him up straight away. And they were, because I asked Richard how they were with him, later, and they said they were really nice. I had my first ride in a police van. He said, which was quite exciting, he said to me, and they were really, really nice. They pulled up at side of me and said, Are you Richard? He said, your wife's looking for you. They're all out looking for you. So they were amazing, these two constables. They were a man and a lady working together, and they really, really looked after him. And so I still can't thank them enough for what they did for my Richard. But then you get the dark side. And when I say the dark side, there are things that happen within the police. You hear of corruption. You hear of corruption is the same as, they call them bent coppers. Now, bent coppers is being a police officer or a man of the law, but they do bad things that's against the law, as well as being an officer of the law. Whether it be drug dealing, there's a wide range of criminal activity that police they could look the other way and not report it. There's like this to catch a copper. It's people who are vulnerable, whether they are mentally ill or whether they are in crisis. Even drunk people who, well, they're drunk, aren't they? And I mean, you know yourself when you've had way too much drink and you just don't know what you're doing, really. But you're vulnerable. You are, and a lot of people are. And the police don't handle things the way they should. Like, you get someone who is really, really poorly. They need help. They need someone to talk to. They need someone to turn to. But if you get a person who's in crisis and is going to jump off a bridge, and someone's at the bridge and they call the police, when the police come, they should talk to that person, find out what's going on, say why has things gotten so bad. I'm sure there's some solution to why this person wants to end their life. It's the same with anybody, not just police officers attending a scene, but talking to that person, and because they must be going through hell, or they must be so poorly that the reality of things are just out of their control. It is called being in crisis. It is. But officers who attend the scene and they don't have empathy and they victimise that person should not be police officers. It's not a game you're walking into. It's not like you're at school. It's real. It's years ago, I had a breakdown. And it was I was in crisis. I was in crisis. And a very, very kind man helped me. and he rang the police and the emergency services. It had been building up a long time, my mental health problem. We're talking over 20 years ago. And the police were very, very kind with me. And the paramedics were very, very nice. They worked together as a team to get me into hospital. I was totally out of reality. I really was. My world was a nightmare with what I suffered. The world wasn't how I see the world today. Me talking to you. My world was a different world. My world was full of monsters. That's how I saw the world. But luckily, I got dealt with empathy. They were very, very kind. And they managed to get in touch with my family. And my family came. I didn't know who they were. But they came to my aid. And I thank the people who took control over me that night, because I could have ended up anywhere. It was like 4 or 5 in the morning. I could have been run over by a car. I was so out of it. I could have even been like these poor people on this programme, jumped off a bridge. I was that out of it. I'm lucky to be alive today, to be honest. But because I was dealt in the right hands, I got the appropriate treatment, I was able to get myself out of that hole that I was in. So being a police officer, same with any kind of public servant, whether it's a police officer, anybody in the health profession, such as a doctor, a nurse, anybody in the care industry, even people who are lawyers, anybody who's dealing with the public sector has to have empathy and compassion. And they have to be prepared for that kind of work. And you have to make the person trust you. Trust is a big word. Trust, because without that, there'll be no more faith in the police, no more faith in the health service. And when you hear about these incidents, like on that programme To Catch a Copper, it scares people. It really does happen. You're always going to get a rotten apple in every bunch, unfortunately. I mean, we know in this day and age what is appropriate and what's not. We do. I mean, you see bad things every day. And especially this day and age, it's called political correctness. We all know what we can say and what we can't. So I think you know with what I'm saying. For anybody who wants to be a police officer, you've got to have that special something. You want to go in to help people, not abuse them. Because you're dealing with the most serious and vulnerable people there is in society, and they class mental health as the biggest one. And it's not very nice. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Okay. If you did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up and a subscription. As always, it does mean so much. Thank you to my current subscribers and hopefully future subscribers, as you will all be amazing. Please, if you want to check all my other, please check out all my other videos and content, as you may find them enjoyable and interesting. And soon I'll be getting prepared for making lunch and lunchtime with me, and I hope you can join me for that. So 22 minutes has gone. Okay, so please take care, stay safe, and see you again soon. Okay, bye.